Hello to everyone following my channel. This is Ethan Jacobs, the lead and only developer of Project Berseau. If you've seen my last videos, you probably will all look very familiar. A couple of things have changed that I added in recently. For one, it would be this corridor here between the Haussmannian buildings. And also, I don't think I showcased this in the last video, but it was there. I did make a round modular Haussmannian building. Now I say modular, I'm kind of using the wrong terminology, but I just kind of approximate what I'm duplicating. I'm not professionally doing it by any means, but you can see it works pretty nicely. Now, what I mainly wanted to showcase in this video was the brand new Tugboat, which I spent the last couple of weeks working on, and by weeks I mean maybe an hour or two every 5 or 6 days. Here's it in game. I also have another demo camera that I'm using for the time being. You can see it, the full length of it. For other reference, I'm just gonna pull it out of the water real quick. This is the controller for so that we can like move and shit. Yeah, this is what it looks like. All the textures are hand painted. That's why it looks a little tiled, but it's just because I made it myself. I like keeping everything graphically consistent to an extent. And there's also an interior, but the interior is unfinished for the time being. So it's not finished, but it's basically to the point where I'm incredibly satisfied with how it turned out. I need to add a spotlight. I need to add a, here's the reference if you're not familiar. I need to add some barrels, the rudder and the propeller thingies, a little bit of like a smokestack here. That's about it. And I'm not adding a door for the cockpit kind of area, or the, I don't know what you call a console or whatever. That's all going to be fairly rudimentary. I made some design changes. For instance, I made the lights blue because there's a color palette of the game. It's kind of like blue and teal, which here's like a random lore thing. So it's supposed to be a canal city, and it floods every now and then. But there's been so many bad floods, so many people died that they have like a flood festival to commemorate their losses. And the colors of the flood festival are kind of like this teal and pink color. And that's where the color palette of the game comes from. I'm not sure why it's happening, but every single time I press play, it just goes to the main camera. I kind of hate that. I'm going to change it in a bit, but yeah, for the time being, that's whatever. Some other things I added are accessibility features, so that you can go up the stairs and you can get around the buildings however you please. These lights here are from my old assets file, and I'm getting rid of this string light because, as you can tell, oh shit. There, I'm back in my habit of pressing play and expecting it to always be here. But yeah, this is just a shadeless texture in actual spheres, which is really stupid in retrospect. Now I'm using essentially PNG images. It's a really low resolution texture, but it looks like it's glowing. I think it's really cool. Fits what I had in mind better than the little blue bulbs, icospheres or whatever. So essentially, the roadmap. I did make a, oh yeah, so I need to optimize my lighting in the game. Like the point lights need to be optimized, and there's a way to do it in the BGE. It's pretty simple, but I'm going to get that in a bit. I'm going to add more LOD versions of these buildings, which you can see there's actually an LOD version of this building, the small Haussmannian building, and then there's one for that one and that one. I need to add one for this one, the roof, the shop building. There's just a lot of stuff that needs to be done, but as you can see, for the time being, it all works fairly well. The MIP mapping could probably be more extreme. I'm just trying to make everything as graphically renderable as possible because I don't want to get a lot of lag. And it's very, when I had individual points assigned to each of these, which to most people in the BGE would be like, that's a no-brainer that you would not do that, but it killed my frame rate. So I'm going to be moving away from that. Other optimization things I'm going to be using are some kind of like calling, I guess. I have not put a lot of thought into it. And a word of game development advice: I'm not the best game developer, and this goes to show. I consider myself more of a visual artist than a game developer. But when it comes to advice, you really need to understand each field that you're undertaking when you start a project like this. And this has opened my eyes a lot. Like, I started to realize how much more there is to all of this. Because if you've seen my old games, which I'm just going to pull up for shits and giggles. This is Broadfa. And yes, it's in an absolute state of disrepair because UPBGE broke it, or 2.5 broke it. But you look here, there's no optimization. There's these like highly detailed trees and stuff. The game like freezes and breaks. I cheapened out with textures and I just stole them off the internet, which is a total sin on my behalf. With Berseau, I've been putting a lot more time into it. Everything's hand painted by me. Everything's animated, all that by me. Because I don't want to have any kind of copyright issues, except for these clouds and the weather research I got from friends. Clouds are temporary. I plan on painting my own at some point, but for the time being, I'm too lazy to do that. But I think they actually look pretty nice. I was surprised. I did not plan on adding them, and I did, and it really gave the game a big boost. Now, anyway, back to my roadmap thing, what I plan on doing. I got totally sidetracked. I plan on making this area called High Market, which is the first section of the map of Berseau. And High Market should probably be about, let's say, 4 or 5 times the size of this, for reference. And we're going to see a lot of buildings like this. There's going to be a lot of buildings that aren't enterable. You'll have a few interiors, which the poissonnerie, I think it's the pâtisserie or the boulangerie. That'll be the bakery. And then there's going to be an observatory for one of our NPC characters I have yet to model, named Fabien Blaise. Now, the lore of this game is probably the most important part of the project, because that's all I personally cared about when I designed it. I was like, here's the story, we have a main character, he's like a vigilante. The more I work on this, the less important the vigilante thing becomes. I have an idea for like a story and like quests and stuff that I can add later on, but for the time being, making an explorable world and all that is kind of prioritizing where I'm going with this. So the tugboat, the point of it is so that we can transfer between places like this and the ones that are far away, and that's the point of the High Market area. It's going to be really big, or not really big, but it'll seem big. It's basically an open world map. You can explore it, and it is going to be the testament of what I can do in the UPBGE engine. I'm one of the few people who says UPBGE and not UPBGE, which is kind of weird. But essentially, we're going to be you will be saying, I'm obviously making it, but you'll be seeing a lot of these sections of map but bigger. And yeah, probably the same building types, like the Haussmannian buildings. Those are going to be very prevalent in these new things. And also the accessibility. Like the system here kind of gives me a headache. It's very cramped. I get that. I don't really know what to do about it. Like, if you think about how a city like this would be structured from like a climbing standpoint, most people are going to want to use the elevators. But yeah, each section of the map will have this level of accessibility so you can get from place to place. And some sections won't have that accessibility. Like, for instance, there will probably be a stretch of buildings, like 15 of these types of buildings. And I'll make them all look diverse, but you won't be able to like climb up the sides of them and stuff like that, because there's no parkour or anything. It's just stairs, which might seem kind of lame, but I'm not like a god. I can't program parkour animations. Like, I can barely, or not program, I can barely animate a run cycle, let alone have them climbing up the buildings. But I'm doing basically what I can, and I'm learning a lot while doing this. Like that whole the lights on this tug here, I'm gonna go to my J view. So the lights there, those are PNG images. I don't know if I explained that. I did like 2 takes of this, but pretty big deal. Now, enough blabbering. Let's see the game from the standalone player. As you can see, I'm getting 60 frames per second. Camera collision's still a little buggy, but it's getting better every couple of days, so we'll see what happens. Here's our elevator. I got rid of the lights on the elevator for obvious reasons. Or I got rid of one light on the elevator. There used to be a bunch. But anyway, yeah, that was kind of laggy. Here's the view. Here's some more of those. These lights are new, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I created them. They're supposed to be like lamp posts that go onto like docks and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Here's a little bridge across. There's going to be a hanging bridge here, but I have to kind of figure out what I'm doing there. Here's how you can go down. As you can see, it's a little cramped, but it works. It wouldn't be so bad if the camera collision was better, The camera collision being just absolute balls is the main problem here. Now this little corridor is brand new. I was pretty happy with how it turned out. Just a baked ambient occlusion. Yeah, I bake ambient occlusion. Probably mentioned that. Here's the balcony. It's pretty cool. Got a little interact animation. It's buggy, but it suffices for the time being. Now, let's show off the tugboat. Here's our interior, which is not totally textured yet. I just put a stone texture on it for quick reference. You go in here, you can look around, the camera can clip through the walls a little bit. I mean, the camera collision works. Like I said, it's functional, but I think as you're the viewer, it gives you more of a headache than it gives me, which makes me less prone to fixing it 100%. I'm not sure what the best method of fixing it is, but I have a lot of trouble making it more responsive. Anyway, here's that light cord up close. I'm using anti-aliasing for the alpha sort, or what, I don't know, there's some word there that I don't know. I'm going to add some sounds to the tugboat in a bit, and then as you can see, I'm using linear velocity, which is a little unprofessional for the movement, but it kind of makes it glide, which is what I like. Another thing I would like to add is some level of bobbing for the tugboat, like it kind of goes up and down in the water a little bit, and a water ripple effect around it, like a white kind of cartoony ripple effect. It's going to be a while before I can get something like that in. You see, we're still kind of cranking 60s. An absolutely cringy way of presenting this project, but that's just me. Now, usually if you get away from the buildings and you keep them in view, it lags really badly, which I think has to do with like the rendering of it. Maybe I have to add like level of detail models or something. I don't know. There's probably a lot. As you can see, they abruptly switched to their level of detail versions of that one there. I'm speaking in gibberish basically, but and then if I turn to face it, actually that's not too bad. I think a good loading screen would go a long way. Now the camera zooms out whenever you're controlling the tugboat, and whenever you get back in, it works pretty decently. And I'd like to add sounds, like I said, bobbing and all that, but that's a while off. And I'm going to add garages. If you remember from one of my older videos, I had a boat garage, which was like it was like the Haussmannian building type, like the blue roofed ones, but essentially it had small little garage ports for maybe like rowboats or something. I want to make a really big kind of garage building. It'll probably be brick, I'm gonna say, an industrial style like factory building, and it'll be for tugboats, stuff like that. Maybe you could like park it. So yeah, there's a little zoom around on the boat. I'm sorry that I put this so far back in the video. I like talking about my project. I don't really get great times to do it. If I don't have the most annoying voice in the world, then it's probably not that bad to listen to. As you can see, here's the texture when I zoom around it. Now, if you remember way early on, like in that first video I posted, it was like Berseau rising, and then I had all the buildings and like the camera zooming up with the water effect. Looks kind of cheesy, but at the time, I also had stairs here. At the time, that looked really good, for me at least. And as I went along, these buildings only got so much more detailed. I toned down the saturation of their roof colors. As you can see, I even added like some like little details in the paneling. I made them look appropriate compared to Demond scale. All these little details that I added were after I first made them. You're going to see the same thing with the tugboat. It looks relatively detailed right now. It's a little bland, but for as much lore as I've written for the tugboat and as much kind of personality I want to give it, there's going to be a lot more to come. You're going to see like, the rudder, the propeller, stuff like that, and you're also going to see in the interior maybe like a little cot where he sleeps, I'm going to guess. I do plan on adding those like little immersive mechanics like sleeping and like sitting, because I think that if you're familiar with games like Mafia 2, people seem to love, and I personally love, having mechanics to make open worlds feel really at home. Like, oh, this is a place where I could actually walk around and do jack shit in. And it's like, oh, by the way, I'm also a vigilante. Like, it's so immersive and fun to explore that you kind of forget about the purpose of the game. And yeah, I'm not the most couth speaker. I get it, but it's fun. I'm having a lot of fun on this project. I didn't think it was ever going to get this far. To be honest, I didn't ever think I was going to model the player Demond until probably last year, I think. And look, he turned out pretty okay. He looks like a halfway decent video game character, and just like the buildings, I'll up his graphics as the time comes, or time flies by. I don't know what the correct terminology would be there, but yeah, there's a lot of little details, and I could talk about this for hours because it's my project. It's to me, it's really interesting. Now, like I said, from here, it's just making everything bigger, having more of it, optimizing everything, making it feel more alive. And I don't want the graphics to take a big toll because obviously it's cartoony. I feel like in today's day and age, it should be relatively easy to render. If possible, if anyone works in the UPBGs really good with optimization, I would really appreciate it if anyone would like test out the game file, mess around with it, and see what could be changed to make it run better. Because I do really want to make this map huge, not like super big, but I want it to feel detailed, large, like you could run around and you don't have to worry about lag killing it. Now, obviously, I'm not new to game development. I'm pretty young, but I started doing this when I was 10, and I was 10 in like 2015. And when I started out, I was making really basic games like Bratva. Bratva, this was my first serious project that I posted on YouTube, and this was the second graphics phase of it. And essentially, for me, this was huge. Like the gameplay is probably the mechanics are probably more complex than anything I've done or anything I'd done at that time. To be honest, the shooting and stuff is really rudimentary. It might have looked cool to me and apparently like 30 other people who liked it when I made it, but if you break it down, everything's pretty simple. With Berseau, I'm still not coding because, I have enough of the mindset to program, to model, to do all these visual things, to animate, to do UI design, but coding is like a completely different mindset to me. Like it's just something that's never really interested me that much. And while it's probably essential to take this project to the next level, for the time being, I'm pretty fine with what I've got. But I'm just really hyped about this. I'm not putting as much time into it because I'm going to be honest, I'm so busy right now. We're not so busy, but starting to get busy with school, and as time passes by, I'm probably going to have even less time to work on this, but I don't need a lot of time. I need 1 or 2 days every now and then, and that's all it takes me to make great progress on here. Like, there's so many things that to me, when I first started out, would have seemed crazy that I got done. Like, the realistic interiors or fake interiors for the Haussmannian buildings. I thought that kind of technology was something I like dreamed about, and I realized someone had done it in the UPBGE, and I just took their blend and essentially made it my own. I actually painted the little texture here myself, but there's so many things that I'm adding to this where to me it doesn't feel like a really crappy indie game or indie world, I guess it would be at this point. It feels a little detailed, like there's certain, not next-gen technologies, but I'd say, we're working at the rate of a 2013 PS3 project with, stylized graphics. But, yeah, to me, it's really interesting. I think all of it's turned out better than I could have expected. Like, even though the progress, like, once I edited the elevator, that was probably the first change I made where suddenly this didn't feel like an awful project. Like, I had got to a point where I thought, these graphics aren't very good, the lighting looks really bad, I don't think I should continue this. When I added the elevator, something about it to me feels so distinctly 1930s, like it matched the vibe I had outlined for the world. And because I had done that, I was like, well, I could just do that for everything else. So I started making these buildings more detailed. I added clouds. I added these little lampposts. And these things don't take very long for me to do. Like even the tugboat. I thought the tugboat was going to be this huge undertaking for me. I got it done in a relatively small amount of time. Now, when I get into the groove, I lose track of time. Like, I'll be listening to music or something, and suddenly, it's almost done. But all this came along pretty easily. Now, character-wise, I'm very excited for that. I will show off some concepts for who I'm going to be adding soon. Here's a character, Fabian Blaze. This is a really shitty drawing, but essentially he's like, these dates are bad. I changed the lore. So he's supposed to be Damon's only living relative in the city, and he's a marine biologist and lives in this laboratory, which is going to look like this. So this will be the most probably explorable and detailed. Actually, no. This will be the second most explorable and detailed building in High Market. The first one will be a bar. I don't have a concept for it, but there's going to be a bar, and it's going to be really cool. But yeah, the observatory should be certainly unique, and that's where you kind of get. I assume you'll get some quests from there early on. Now, if you're looking at the buildings here, you've noticed that I've changed. There used to be these like really wide, like backed Haussmannian buildings. I can't speak right now. These ones are really thin. I did that for the sake of like the strip type. The ones in the out will have the long ones that you're used to seeing. Now, anyway, yeah, the objective is to make High Market a real city. I want to add a loading screen so that when you go from the menu, he doesn't do a little stupid jump punch thingy. I think I had a roadmap. So essentially, loading screen. Oh, user interface. I completely forgot about that. In a journal/planner, which is what I'll give out quests with. And quests early on are going to be mostly text driven, I assume. It'll be like, here's your incentive. Maybe I'll do some like voice acting, like really rudimentary, bad French accents, and then that's what you'll hear. Maybe like I'm thinking if you're familiar with those old Nintendo games for NPC interaction, you go up to the guy and he'll say like, "Oh, stormy weather," and there'll be like a huge paragraph. He says like one line, and you just have to read it. So yeah, if you're interested in the narrative of this game, you're gonna have to read. So I plan on finishing the tugboat plus mechanics, working on expanding maps, assets, and some basic NPCs. That's my main roadmap kind of goal. Follower AI. So yes, there is a character. There's some important characters in the game. I'm just kind of going over everything. I'm all over the place, but you gotta bear with me. If you're interested in the project, that is. If you're not, just shut it off and don't follow me. But anyway, our characters are Damon, who's our protagonist. He's the player character in Vigilante. Maurice Dupont, who's the protege to Damon. So he met Damon by pretending to be the unknown vigilante in the city to impress a rich girl. He also works at the bakery. So that's where Maurice is going to be at. I'm thinking, like, if you're familiar with Elizabeth from Bioshock Infinite, that's my idea for his following mechanics. He'll kind of spawn around and stuff. You'll turn around and be like, oh, where'd he go? And then you look, oh, he's behind you. That's how his following type's going to work. But anyway, yeah, he's supposed to be your protege. I don't know what his point really is, especially when there's no enemies. But yeah, I'll have him alongside Damon once they start working on a fighting system. For now, though, it's more of a narrative thing. Then you've also got Fabian Blaise. Like I said, he's the leader. Oh, I didn't say this. He's the leader of the resistance in the city. So yes, the city's corrupt. They're Le Maire, who's like the head of the municipal council. He's a dirtbag. Anyway, Fabian Blaise used to be the leader of the resistance during World War II. Now that the war's over, he started it back up to fight the corruption in the city. And essentially, Damon Rousseau, who was a fisherman at the time, he recruits him to be a member of the resistance. Because, like I mentioned, this bar that I want to add, Damon's at a bar and he kills a couple people as like an act of heroism. And like Fabian's already contacted him to become a member of the resistance. And after that act of heroism, he decides, okay, maybe I will become like a vigilante. So that's how that happens. And he becomes like infamous, but no one knows his name because all of his family's dead. Which, if you were curious and started reading up here, that's what happened. The Lady of Wisps is an apparition, I guess, of Damon's dead wife. I thought that name just sounded really cool. Maybe I could translate in French, it'd probably sound cooler. But she appears in the game occasionally to haunt Damon and lead him to certain memories of his life long forgotten. So, if you played Shadow of War, she'd be like Celebrimbor, or maybe Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk 2077. It's a gaming trope, but it's one of my favorite ones. So she kind of looks like a dead corpse, but she'll have like kind of a glowing feature to her. So like beautiful, but kind of creepy and eerie. And then Le Maire, obviously, and I want to add City Guard and French Scoundrels, which is they just like stereotypical Frenchmen. I have them up here somewhere. I think they look funny as hell. I drew them like here's Maurice, by the way. That's what he should look like. And the French Scoundrels, here he is. Look at this guy. He looks like a clown. He's like a stereotypical Frenchman. He should be carrying like a bag of baguettes or some shit. But yeah, he's very stereotypical. This is what Damon used to look like in the 1930s. I actually started modeling him like this because I, for some reason, thought that making the city, like, I had an idea to scale down the game, which somehow was bigger than what I have planned at the moment. And I was like, oh, well, it's going to be set 10 years before the whole flooded city thing, and it'll be like 1930s Art Deco France. I thought, oh, it's a brilliant idea. It's going to be sick. But then I realized, oh my god, that's like impossible for my skill set. So I went back to my original idea, which I have a lot more motivation for personally. And I'm going to be doing, the same kind of thing. But I'm going to use this design whenever I need to show what he used to look like. I also have a World War I Damon concept. Yeah, there's him in World War I, French World War I uniform. But you get the point by now. I want to add NPCs because that's a more fun thing for me to work on. If you're curious, so where does it go in terms of what I enjoy working on versus what I don't enjoy working on? What I don't enjoy working on is things like optimization, animations, and really intricate programming. Like, actually, I enjoy doing stuff like the elevator mechanics. They're not 100% right, by the way. They work enough to get the job done. Like, it's completely functional, but sometimes like both the levers will go down at the same time. I can work on that later on. I enjoy programming like that. I enjoyed programming the mechanics of the tugboat. I enjoy not adding the camera collision, but stuff like that. Now, I don't enjoy like really intricate, oh, I gotta make sure these animations line up. And for instance, look at this. You see that little, like, he doesn't clip back into his idle animation like a lot of people insist. There is a little kind of extra step animation there, but it's not the best. Adding stuff like that was absolutely dreadful for me. I was so happy when I got it done, but at the time it was really tough. So you get it. Like, I don't really enjoy stuff like that, but I do enjoy adding characters, and I love drawing. I love writing lore. I love doing user interfaces, which doesn't make sense that I haven't added a loading screen. Sorry, my speech is all over the place today. And then, yeah, I like adding little models and assets and stuff, and little details that make the world look alive, like the power lines, for instance. I think those really add a huge sense of realism. But essentially, the point is, for now, I want to add more details, I want to optimize stuff, make everything bigger. And I hope that you're interested in this project, because I'll probably be talking about it a lot from now on. I don't really have a base for my music stuff. I don't really care too much about it right now. Like, I'll still work on it, but obviously I think more people are probably interested in this game than anything else, so I'm just gonna see where it takes me. Yeah, I mean, I think for a high schooler, it's a pretty noble effort at trying to emulate an open world French game. But anyway, here's a notice to anyone, and I applaud you if you made it to the end of this video, because I barely know what I'm talking about. Like, I love talking about it, but I'm all over the place not playing speaker. For an impromptu kind of speech, I think it turned out okay. But if you made it to the end of this video, and you're interested in following the project, or if you want to help out, join my Discord server, I'm always looking for consultants for any kind of like French aspects of the game, because it's set in France, albeit a fictional city. I still would love to have someone like help with translations, immersive details, make it a little bit more up to code. If you know a lot about UPBGE and game development, or if you're interested in helping with the coding aspect of the game, feel free to join in, or animator, any of that kind of stuff, because like I said, I don't plan on selling this game at any point. It's more of a project than anything, and my back plan is, if this all goes to shit, I will actually post a blend of this with all the assets and everything, so that people can use it. If there's anything that I did right, you can learn from it, or take the textures and use it for your own to make your own projects. Keep the legacy going. Because, when I was a little kid doing BGE stuff, I would have loved something like that. So, yeah, this is just a run through of what's going on. It's my second Insights video. I probably should have put in more gameplay, but, that's not my post. This is just, give everyone an idea. Now, I've talked enough. You get the point. If you're interested, hit me up. Bad terminology. But yeah. Thank you for watching, if you did. I assume most people tune out really early on, and if you're a listener who made it this far, cheers to you. This is everything. Hope you enjoyed. Keep following the Berseau game. Thanks for watching.